How many children should I have? I want to give you two simple biblical principles that will help you answer that question with a bit more confidence that you are honoring God in this important area of life. And of course, everything I say here is under the overall sovereignty of God, who alone is the giver of life. First principle is multiply. Genesis 1:28. God said, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth." The second principle is manage. In the same verse, God also said, "Subdue the earth, have dominion over everything in it." And God calls us to hold both principles together, to obey each to the max. Now, some Christians only hear the first command, multiply. And that's all they do. They multiply, multiply, multiply until there's nothing left to multiply. But often they ignore the second principle, which is to manage, to bring control and order to their lives and to their families. They obey one commandment at the expense of another. And the result often is a mother who is physically, emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually shattered. Children, some of whom may be neglected or disorderly. And fathers who stay away from that kind of home and ultimately, eventually, may stray from such a home. They have obeyed one command at the expense of another, and it just doesn't work. But there are other Christians, and they only hear the manage command. And I think this is probably a more common mistake in our day than the first one. So these are Christians whose focus is on control and order. They minimize the multiply command in order to maximize their own comfort and their own prosperity. But God calls us to avoid these two extremes and to try and hold these two principles together. And when we do that, we come up with this joint biblical principle that God calls us to multiply to the maximum that we can manage well with His help. Multiply to the maximum that we can manage well with His help. And the application of that principle, the outworking of it, will look different depending on different people, different situations, depending on the different physical, emotional, mental, even financial resources that each couple have. That means we stand or fall on this before God alone, and we shouldn't be judging other people. There may be families, and God's blessed them with both the mother and the father with tremendous resources, physical, emotional, mental, financial, social support and resources. And so they can multiply and still manage at the same time. And I've seen a number of beautiful big families like that. But you've also got families who you look at them and there's very few children. You think, oh, they're minimizing multiply. But there may be very good reasons for that we are not privy to. And therefore, let's just stand or fall before God alone on this and leave others to work out their responsibility before God. Remember this basic biblical principle. Real men multiply to the maximum that they can manage well for God's glory.